So historically, outreach workers, they get up in the morning and they get assigned a designation to go service. Generally, we go out in teams, like say 2 people or sometimes 4. You talk to people. You just kind of gently walk up. How's everybody doing today? Can we get you anything? And sometimes people just, from the inside of the tent say, nope, leave me alone, I'm asleep. But then many, many times, people will come out and are very generous and thoughtful and want to talk.
Amalia, how do you stay safe out there?
I think a winsome personality is your best weapon.
Well, you certainly have that.
Yeah. But I really believe that.
Yeah.
I really believe that it's very slight, but it's the way that you walk.
Yeah.
It's how you approach people. It's about just maybe you just walk slower.
Yeah.
You don't try to face off with people and have eye contact. You just want to be humble. But I've never had anybody even try to accost me. One time I was in front of 7-Eleven over on MLK, and I had to deliver some clothes to somebody that I didn't know who they were. They were his work clothes. He needed them for the next day. I went up to the side at the 7-Eleven, and there was a guy standing on the corner, and he was screaming, and he was looking out in the traffic and things, and I thought, oh my gosh, and I walked over to him and I said, hey, do you know Jorge? And he said, yeah, he's in the tent right over there, And so the person was able to auto-correct themselves to fit into that conversation. And so that's what showed me that just because somebody's standing there screaming doesn't mean they're going to do anything to you.
Right. How do you keep people hopeful? And is it important to do that?
It's the most important thing. I think you keep people hopeful by showing up. It's the long game. Nothing's going to be solved in this world overnight, but if you just keep showing up, you have a positive attitude, you can do it.